So I think my interest in club culture in like in a practice setting came from a friend that I have who's also a co-worker of mine. He's a queer elder, and he was really prominent in the queer club scene in London in the 80s and 90s, and he would just tell me all these stories all the time, and they always were like the craziest stories. And there was one day he was just telling me the story, and he turned to me and he said, you know, if we don't write this down, like when I die, this is gone forever. And that like really struck with me, and it was something that I kind of kept coming back to. So he was one of the first people in the project that I interviewed, and a lot of the work, or a lot of the imagery in the work kind of stems from our conversations. Well, I think Eurodance is a genre that's very nostalgic for a lot of people. It's a genre that I kind of grew up listening to, but I recently read a study that said that over 80% of music recorded under the Eurodance genre is recorded in English, but only about 20% of those artists natively speak English. And the reason why is to appeal to a wider European audience. And basically because of this, words are chosen not necessarily for their meaning, but because of their like phonetic or kind of impressionistic value. So you get these words that kind of are put into lyrics that don't necessarily make sense, and you kind of get this sort of pseudo-English. It was described in Simon Reynolds' Energy Flash as a pseudo-English that makes English sound somewhat alien or kind of abstract. And I was just really drawn to that, kind of using words as like sounds and feelings as opposed to like their meaning, or how can language kind of be distorted in that way. Whenever I started making the film, I knew that I kind of wanted to have a sort of semi-abstract love story arc where this person kind of, the narrative kind of loosely follows someone who goes on holiday and they meet someone and they fall in love and they have this like really intense short-term relationship, and then their lover has to go back home, their holiday ends, and it's kind of them going back home and kind of learning to live without, and that kind of really intense love and then really intense heartbreak like immediately after. And every single line in the film is pulled from some kind of Eurodance song, and I basically have been like widely listening to the genre for the last few months, and I've been like transcribing the lyrics and then translating and back translating them back into the native languages of the original artists, and the lyrics are all kind of put on screen with the English translations as well. But as I was saying about that kind of pseudo-English, there are moments where the narrative arc is like completely lost, or it becomes quite convoluted, where there's like moments where maybe you think that they've already broken up, but then they're like back together again, and it's kind of this, it's sort of bouncing across the timeline, and it kind of gets lost in the process. And I really wanted, I had originally planned to actually have the songs that each of the lyrics were pulled from nearby, maybe on like a list or something, but I found that whenever they kind of got lost and I myself was reading through the poem, I had forgotten where lyrics had been pulled from. But there are some moments where some are like really clear, and I've had people point out a lyric from Cascada's Every Time We Touch and Lana Del Rey's Summertime Sadness, so it's quite nice that some people have their own kind of personal moment or connection with some of those lyrics. So thinking of queer club spaces, they're something that has historically been extremely sparsely documented, sometimes not even at all, and a big part of this project is kind of questioning how do you preserve or how do you document these histories of these spaces that were never sort of ever intended to last. They kind of are this ephemeral thing that's always in flux, or it's always fleeting, and I think that's something that's really relevant right now in Ireland. Give Us the Night published their study like last week that said that there's only 83 functioning nightclubs in Ireland at the moment, and yeah, it's that kind of like ephemerality or fleeting, this thing that's sort of always on the periphery and never kind of in a solid state. So I've lots of exciting things coming up with club construction, but very soon I'm starting to work on a project called Club Construction Test Site, and it's going to be a series of exhibitions, screenings, performances, interventions, where I'm basically going to try to explore ideas that I haven't been able to explore in my research yet. So that's very exciting.